Today's sutta is a sutta that doesn't take anything for granted. What I mean by that, a human being who takes the decisions that they have been making or have made seriously, where a lot is riding on it, as they say. For a purpose. We need to have a purpose. In whatever we do, we say, even the way we think, it needs to generate, it needs to be generated from a point. And throughout several suttas, Lord Buddha and his Arya Savakas mention how it starts with that spark, which is the desire, which is, in modern parlance, we say goal. What is that point of interest, fervency, fervent interest? And that's why we do what we do, why we do what we do. So in your daily lives, see, why am I doing this? Why do I do this? Good or bad, it doesn't matter, but just to understand where you're coming from. That itself, when we ask those questions, we pull ourselves out of the automatic pilot. We take charge of our lives. We're checking to see, okay, what's what? Everyone has to check their credit score or their bank balance, or to balance the paycheck, their checkbook, right? So you need to see how much is coming in, how much is going out, P&L, like profits and losses. We do these things, but we don't necessarily do them when we are living our lives on a deeper level, on a spiritual level. We all are spiritual beings, whether we appreciate it or acknowledge it or not. So the thinking has to be checked. Why am I doing this? The point of enthusiasm, if you will. And we see today's protagonist, or the main figure, at least in the first portion of the sutta, it's Venerable Samiddhi. And here's a person who has made a choice to become a bhikkhu, leaving behind his world. And then he's being tempted. We're being tempted all the time. Our old patterns, habitual tendencies, feelings, different things that we go through, interactions, situations. We're being tempted. They might not be Mara per se, but we nevertheless are being tempted. So in those circumstances, we need to fall back on what is it that got me to start on this journey in the first place, of wanting to awaken, of wanting to live a more conscious and aware and responsible, happy life, fulfilling life. We need that. That is our North Star. And I don't see that, enough of us are doing this in this world today. So checking in. So today's sutta is from Samyutta Nikāya, the Connected Discourses, 1.20, SN 1.20. It comes to us from the bigger collection of the chunks, the big collections, the chunks from the connected or linked discourses, the Sagata Vagga Samyutta, which are the connected discourses relating with verses. So you see a lot of verses there. There's some constructions going on, so if you hear some, so outside, you know. And then it comes from the Devata Samyutta. That is the subsection of these discourses. Devata means the divine beings, the Devas. So pertaining to those connected discourses. And Nandana Vagga is the smaller group, which is the section on the Garden of Delights. So things that pertain to delights, gardens. So it's almost like a Deva realm, something to do with Devas, but also pleasures, pertaining to pleasures. So they're thematically arranged. And then in that smaller group, we find the sutta itself, which is the Samiddhi Sutta or Devata Samiddhi Sutta. The way I translated it is with Venerable Samiddhi. So the sutta begins with Venerable Samiddhi, who had gone to take a morning bath at a place called Topada, I believe, Topada Rama. Topada means hot springs. It still exists. It's in the city of Rajgir, modern day. It's called Rajgir, but it used to be called Rajagaha, the kingly city, you can call it. And it still exists. And the hot springs exist too. I might have mentioned them, the hot springs. I've been there, and it has two sections. You go up the stairs now. There's a section that is dedicated to more to the public area, basically. It's poorer people could afford to go, so it's 1 rupee, I think, which is completely insignificant amount of money to go in. So it's packed, even early morning. It's packed with people. And then you have the other side, which is on the left side as you're going up, and that is for the more wealthier, affluent people. I think it was 100 or 150 rupees to enter. So you would see only a few people there versus on the other side. So the water is totally different, but it's pretty hot from what I hear. I didn't attend it, so I was going up towards Venerable Mahakassappa's kuti, and then all the way up to the other, the major cave where we had the first Buddhist council, all the way up at the top. So Venerable Samiddhi is having a bath, and a Deva comes and begins to converse with him. We're going to see how it's not just a conversation, because the Deva wants something from him. And well, Venerable Samiddhi, we see him also in that particular place, because he was from Rajagaha to begin with, and he was a member of the royal family or the court, and so he had given up that life, and he had become a bhikkhu. So he also became the student of Venerable Sariputta, who was the chief disciple of Lord Buddha's, and second only to the Buddha in his wisdom. That's how superior his wisdom was. So Venerable Samiddhi was his student at one time, and eventually he does become an arahant, but we don't see that in this sutta. We do see, as I mentioned, Venerable Samiddhi again at this hot spring in another sutta, which I think I might have covered a few years ago. It is the Mahakacchana Bhadde Karatta Sutta, and it is where some say it's the same Deva that comes and converses with him at that same very spot. So there might be some argument or differences of opinion as to whether it was the same Deva as we're going to see today or not. That isn't important, I think. So without saying too much from the start, let's just dive in. So this is Samyutta Nikāya number 1.20, Samiddhi Sutta. This is what I personally heard. Once, the Blessed One was living near Rajagaha while staying at the hot springs monastery. Topada Rama, it's used to be called. The monastery isn't there, but there's this huge white Buddha statue that some benefactors or supporters have built. It's still there. It's rather modern. So it was during that time, one early morning, that the Venerable Samiddhi went to the hot springs to bathe at the crack of dawn. Having bathed himself in the hot springs, he came out and began drying himself, standing with his single lower robe. So he's just using his upper robe to dry himself. Then, once the sun was up, a glorious female Deva appeared as she lit up the entire hot springs and began approaching the Venerable Samiddhi. Then, while being suspended in the air, she addressed him in verse. O Bhikkhu, before having even tasted or feasted, you look for alms. Once having tasted and feasted, you wouldn't go looking for alms. And if you still want to, go ahead, look for alms. But only once you have enjoyed yourself and eaten first. So do not waste your precious time, O Bhikkhu. So the name Samiddhi in both Pali and Sanskrit means excellence, perfection. And in the commentaries, the name Venerable Samiddhi, they say it's also reflective of how handsome he was, how attractive of a person he was in his physique and his behavior with people. So what he was encountering is a Deva, and some translators don't say it's a female Deva, but when you look at further as we go on in the suttas, we see Lord Buddha referring to the Deva as Yakhi, which is a female. And the type of Deva that this particular one is, it's a earth Deva. So they're very grosser in their level of purity, you would call it. So they're very much attached to sense pleasures, and we see that. So basically, she's trying to tell him, hey, you're wasting your precious time. What are you doing? You're still young. Go, enjoy yourself. In fact, let's enjoy together here. So she's seducing him. You can go looking for alms after, but now this is the time. You're at your prime of your life, your youth. So she's trying to convince him that we must taste and enjoy, basically have passion for sense pleasures. And the sense pleasures, yes, it is the first of the Tiloka, where we have the sensory realm, where we belong, and the Deva, portions of the Deva's realms belong to. But this could also be that lusting after things, could also be the other form realm and the formless realms as well. So we shouldn't just think, oh, this is only pertaining to only the lower realm. There's three realms that Lord Buddha discusses and explains to us in the suttas. So anyhow, and the Venerable Samiddhi replied, time itself is so unreliable as it remains a complete unknown. For I do not know it, nor can predict its length. Hence, it lies unseen for me. That is why I don't waste any time and choose to look for alms before I taste or eat. The term is bunjati. Bunjati deals with eating, but it also is here. It's like a meta. It's being used as a pun in a sense, as enjoying and feasting on the sensory pleasures. So it's not just the actual eating of food and getting sustenance, but enjoying the sensory pleasures, which, by the way, take so much of our time as people. I say as people, not just as lay people, but everyone. Like I was saying earlier with the Tiloka, the three realms or the three levels of three worlds. The first one is, as I mentioned, is pertaining to the sensory or sensual realms. The second one is more form, has to do with shapes and even ideas. Those are states of being, like the Brahma realms. And then you have the formless realms. But if one has an attachment, they can fit the bill for all three realms, because if a person is still struggling in samsara, it means that they are still holding on to tasting something. There's that greed, there's that lobha to have the other, to taste the other. So it also takes a long time to come to the decision to ordain, by the way, to become a bhikkhu. And here we see Venerable Samiddhi being a bhikkhu, and the many challenges one would think he had to overcome. He had to go and convince his parents, for example. Also the factor of this very important factor of being born as a human. You cannot be a bhikkhu unless you're a human. So we need to acknowledge these things. So he had these qualities, he had all these conditions were being met, and finally he comes to that conclusion and he says, no, I have to ordain. And now he's in the robes of a bhikkhu. So he's saying, I don't have time to waste. Are you kidding me? This is the opportunity that I cannot miss out on, being a bhikkhu, so that I can work on myself. The default mode of being human is not to be a monk, you know? That's becoming a monk, becoming ordained is not natural for the human brain. The tendency, first and foremost, is towards sensuality, towards having so many responsibilities, towards being distracted, towards being restless, drowning in different things, conditions. So it takes a certain level of experience to get a person to be fed up with samsara, fed up with with trying to go after satisfying and spending the time to work on the sensual pleasures, to feed that hole in their hearts that never can be filled up. The sense pleasures. And here's a Deva that's trying to convince him otherwise. So countless eons and lifetimes come and go, and we just do the same thing. Same old, same old. It's much more natural for the human being, let's say, to sleep with others than to sleep on their own. And that's why we have examples of this in the case of in the suttas, where Lord Buddha even talks to some individuals who want to become bhikkhus, and he says, it is not easy to sleep alone and wake up alone, because we want companionship. It is not easy. So why, though? The person has reached a point, they say, I cannot do this anymore. And there's a recognition of the futility of pursuing the five senses. So when the person has the fortitude, the courage, the decision-making power, and the opportunity, basically, the willpower to ordain, to make that decision on their own, so what they would be doing is setting up a new precedent for themselves. And one that the mind can never forget, ever. Even in the next lives, let's say, they come back and they, the default mode is not to become a bhikkhu. They would still remember something will pull them. Something will pull them towards becoming ordained. There will be something attractive about it. Even though logic will come and say, what are you doing? Why? Why is it so attractive? I don't know. And you find yourself trying to defend it and this and that, even though you're very much submerged in the responsibility of a layman. So here we have Samiddhi, Venerable Samiddhi, who has reached that point and he's saying, I'm tired of wasting time. You're talking about me wasting these black hairs, or that I shaved and I'm still young, but you're saying, oh, you're wasting your life. Go and enjoy this and that. You could go ahead and ask for food later on your alms round. But since when has anyone been able to fulfill their sense pleasures fully? It's always going to pull you back. And then by the time that you wake up and realize this, guess what? You're in your 80s, 90s, if you live that long. The body doesn't work, but the greed, the lobha, especially the raga, the passion, the lust is there. So it's a wasted life right there. So he's saying, I've been there and done that, as the saying goes, to the Devata. And anyhow, what's one lifetime? This is what I would recommend. This is my MO in the past when I was like, deciding. I said, it's only one lifetime. I've spent countless lifetimes over there in the past pursuing the sense pleasures and being a layperson. What's one lifetime of being a bhikkhu? Let me go all in, as they say, and give my life to this path. I've done it many, 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 many countless times where I gave myself to the sense pleasure. So you can go in a different direction than the one that was taken by your loved ones, your friends, and especially your parents. But we need to understand as to why, like I was saying earlier, the point of enthusiasm, the goal has to be very personally touching, moving, where some deep questions need to be answered by very quickly. It's absolutely a must for them to be answered. So this is where Venerable Samiddhi is coming from. And let's not forget how he did make that choice. So Venerable Samiddhi was a young man, and he was in the company, like I was saying earlier, he was born in the court of King Bimbisara in Rajagha. And King Bimbisara himself used to come and visit Lord Buddha, especially in the Gija peaks, the Vulture's Peak area. So he would attend, and whenever the King Bimbisara, the Maharaja, used to go, Venerable Samiddhi at the time, the layman, he would just be there, sitting there in the crowd, and he would observe how the relationship was. And he would observe King Bimbisara's behavior, his face, how he would be like so respectful, and there was so much faith. And then he would look at the glorious presence of Lord Buddha and how he was able to answer and heal people with his explanations, with his teachings. And he was so moved that saddha arose in his heart. So this is the enthusiasm, this is that Dhamma chanda, that desire, that fervency that arose in Venerable Samiddhi, that led him to want to become a Sangha member in the first place. So he wasn't going to give that up. So we must always check to see, this is what I was trying to say earlier, before I began exploring the sutta with you. We need to know, why am I doing this? Whatever it is. What is the propelling force? What is the spark? Why? And it has to be good enough of a reason. This gives you the integrity of living as a human being, not a zombie, but you're in charge of your life, the direction of your life. And this could be in case of, let's say, something as mundane compared to this, what we're discussing as let's say, a career path or a relationship. Why do I still stay in this relationship? Why am I in this relationship? Is this a fulfilling relationship? Or how about a career path? Is this career really what I want? Is it still answering the call of my initial enthusiasm, point of enthusiasm? So he's saying, no, if I were to pursue my sense pleasures, that is the waste of time, not being a bhikkhu. Then that Deva came down as he touched the ground with her feet, as she touched the ground with her feet, and said to the Venerable Samiddhi, Bhikkhu, you have gone forth while still very young. You are in the prime of your life, still possessing your black hair, blessed with youth. Nevertheless, you still haven't tasted all that sensual pleasure I have to offer. So now is the time to enjoy all your humanly pleasures. So we see now that the Deva is really tempting him. So he's, she's come down and is touching the ground. So almost wants him to touch her. And she wants to touch him. So this is not a figment of his imagination. She's trying to tell him, I'm very real and I'm here so that we can turn this into a garden of delight. So she continues, don't give up what is already in front of you right here and now. What you can already see and touch, for what you cannot see, touch, or taste. And all that which is uncertain and takes such a long time to achieve. So this is the epitome of delusion, of avidya. This is what every putujjana follows. This code, which is, no, you got to seize the day, carpe diem, right? Seize the day, enjoy while you can. Taste this, grab that, this and that, so long as you're young. Hedonism is based on this, which is our culture. Hedonism is not a school of philosophy that existed in Greece, for example, only. This is the life that we are being told every day to live. Take as much, grab, because you don't know what will come next, or uncertainty. When it's the other way around, ask any addict, and they will tell you, oh, the next hit is going to really give it to me, the real joy. Yeah, well, hold on. Why are we talking about the next one? What happened to the previous 158,000 times that you tried it or did it? Wasn't each one of those attempts you believing that that was it? After all, that's why we keep on listening to the same type of music, the same song, the same type of relationship, The same. What is a human being trying to do? Recapture or capture in the first place, not recapture, because it was never caught. That state of mind, those emotions, and then the mind kicks in and it starts to build papanchas around it, mental proliferations, and that's how poetry comes about. We start talking about, yes, the sunset, the sunrise, oh, it was delicious, oh, it was this, it was that. Meanwhile, it was just a sunrise or sunset. But we allow ourselves to hold on to something that cannot be held on to in the first place. And then we look at, let's say, the path and say, like she's saying here, don't give up what is right here in front of you. What is right here in front of me, by the way? Suffering is in front of me. Temporariness of life is in front of me. Anicca is in front of me. What are you talking about? There's nothing solid in front of me. It's all changing. It's all based on conditions. And it's my figment of imagination or wanting to make things be a certain way that is right here and now. My hopes that they are like that. They're always changing, though. So nothing is based on concrete reality. And then what she's saying is she is belittling, taking the credibility away, or the importance of, no, there's a reason for me to go in the other direction. Sense pleasures can never fulfill us. And that's why she's there. She's not fulfilled. She's an unfulfilled devata, by the way. She's had many, many partners. And now she's seen another potential partner. And there's another sutta where the same devata is actually seducing someone else. So, if it was that fulfilling, that should have been it for her. But no, she's trying to get another victim. Convincing. Every single commercial advertisement you see is doing that same thing as the devata, by the way. Just think about that. And the Venerable Samiddhi replied, friend, I have not given up what is visible right here and now for what is uncertain or takes a long time to achieve. It is in fact just the opposite. For I have given up that which is uncertain and wastes away so much time in order to pursue that which is visible right here in this present. This changes everything. What he's talking about is also one of the qualities or qualifiers of the Dhamma. For the Blessed One has said that sensual pleasures waste so much of our energy and time, meaning they are kalika. Kalika having to do with time. They are just time, they're temporary, leading to so much suffering and anguish, as they are in all actuality dangerous traps that bring one certain defeat. Certain defeat. However, this Dhamma is directly visible right here. The Pali word is sanditthiko. It is visible right here, now. So he's correcting her flawed reasoning. He's trying to pull out the poisonous arrow of ignorance from her heart by saying, no, 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 sweetheart, that's not it. Right here and now are not the sense pleasures or pursuing them. It is the Dhamma. That is where the cure is for this incessant search. Visible right here and now in this very life, being immediately effective, encouraging close inspection, ehipassiko, fully accessible, opanayiko, which repeatedly allows all those wise enough to pursue it, pacchatang veditabbo vinyuhi, to know, to see, and to fully understand it by themselves through their own efforts. Dhamma is to be realized right here, right now, immediately in this life, without postponement, by the way. No time delay for whatever reason. It is akaliko. It is beyond time. Dhamma is any time. In that sense, it is immediate. It is sanditiko, visible right here and now. These are the two very important qualities of the Dhamma, which allow us to realize right view to begin with. So it requires a certain type of a person who has reached a point where they can no longer lie to themselves about dukkha. They see dukkha for what it is. They want a solution. They don't look at the other person. They don't look at that relationship and point fingers and say, it's because of you that there is dukkha. It's because of that there is dukkha. They're tired of all that. They've done it so many times. They're tired. They see through it. And they want to cure right now by seeing dukkha for what it is and their contribution to it, of course. By seeing the right view, one gains the nobility, which comes as their spiritual practice grows. Then the Deva asked the following question. So now something's happening in her. But in what way, Bhikkhu, has the Blessed One described how sensual pleasures waste so much of our energy and time, leading to so much suffering and anguish, as they are, in all actuality, dangerous traps that bring one certain defeat? Also, how is this Dhamma you speak of directly visible right here in this very life, being immediately effective, encouraging close inspection, fully accessible, which repeatedly allows all those wise enough to pursue it to know, see, and fully understand it by themselves through their own efforts? So she's curious. And this is another reason why when people over time would come and ask me, Bhante, give me blessings so that I can, or give blessings to my loved ones so that they can be reborn in a heavenly realm. There's no qualms about that, and I understand the importance of that, because at least they won't be experiencing suffering as much as we do, or even lower realms would, born there would. But there is this big issue with that, which often people neglect to consider, and it's a big issue. If you and when you are reborn in the heavenly realms, especially those in the kama lokas, in the sensual realm portion of the Deva lokas, and they're over, like, I think there's 16 of them. It's very difficult for you to even come in contact with dukkha, to really have an appreciation towards it. Why? Because your senses are off the charts, basically. Sensuality, that's why it's called heavenly realms. There's so much delight and pleasure. You're jumping from one thing to the next. If it's food that you had an affinity for, you haven't tasted food on this planet when you're in those realms. And as you go higher, it's even more. If it's sex, you haven't seen, or whatever, the intensity of what it could be. In the lifetimes, the beauty, this, that. So there's so much. Our brains, human brains, cannot possibly comprehend the immensity of the pleasures that are possible and are available in these realms, which makes it almost impossible for you to come to the Dhamma while you're there, unless as a human being, or even as a Deva, you are in the presence of Dhamma, and because of past intentions and past points of enthusiasm, the chanda and the saddha in your heart, and the practice Even in those realms, even if you were in the Brahma realms, or actually in the Tavatimsa heaven, with so much intense pleasure all around you, you won't even be able to look at someone of the opposite sex. You can't even be mesmerized by the food you're eating or the things that you're drinking or consuming. Why? Because your heart is only thinking about the Dhamma. Those are rare. So what I'm trying to say is, our goal should not be being reborn in a heavenly realm. That's like the kiss of death, really. Like that's like the worst aspiration you can have for someone. Because that means the time will come where they will drop from that realm. All the benefits will be done. The credit ran out. Sorry. Now you have to not even start from scratch, because now you're going to have to deal with the absence of that wealth. Meaning, if your heart was dwelling on delusion, lust, akusala lifestyle, the effects of those are waiting for you. It doesn't matter in your past life. You might have been the king of the 33 realms, Tavatimsa heaven. Now you're in the slums of Calcutta. Or even worse, you're somewhere in Sri Lanka and you're a dog that's three-legged and there's wounds on you and you're actually licking or you're biting your own wounds. You're bleeding. You've eaten off your hide, your fur, your hair is gone. Half of your flesh is gone. And there's far worse than that. That's still part of the 31 realms, you know. So we have to be truly realists when it comes to samsara. This is not just a word. And Venerable Samiddhi is not just, you know, there's wisdom there to make a choice of having a relationship towards these sensual pleasures and making a decision on that relationship. Is this thing wasting my time or not? Pursuing it. Now, that doesn't mean that, you know, everybody has to go and become a bhikkhu or a nun, no. But your relationship has to be reevaluated to these pleasures. At this, the Venerable Samiddhi responded by saying, I'm only a junior monk, friend, only recently gone forth, and therefore just freshly have come to this Dhamma and discipline. I'm not qualified nor able to explain what you ask in detail, but the Blessed One, the Arahant, the fully self-awakened Buddha, my teacher, is residing at this moment here, nearby, in Rajagha, at the Hot Springs Monastery. You should go and directly ask him about this matter. And whatever the Blessed One tells you and instructs you in his answer to your questions, you must closely remember in detail. Now, this is interesting. The Deva then retorted, but it's not easy for us to approach the Blessed One, as he is surrounded by Devas who are so powerful and glorious, whose presence makes it difficult for us to go near the great teacher. Their brilliance, their light, their frequency, if you will, is so fine. Earlier I was saying this Devata belongs to a grosser level of Devas. As you go higher, given the actions and the merits of individuals in these higher realms, their energy is more and more refined and more pure. So what class of devas she's referring to, at the very least, are from the form realms, rupa lokas. So some of them might even be Brahma, gods. So for them, in their presence, no sensuality can exist. So it shuns. It's like darkness coming in contact with light. It cannot withstand it. So she's basically saying, we can't even approach. But if you go to the Blessed One instead and ask him my questions, we too can join you by coming along to listen to the Dhamma he teaches. So basically, you would be our way in. And the energy of the Brahma gods, or their look, won't destroy us, because we are there on a mission. Because in the presence of Lord Buddha, all things are, all individuals who come with a genuine interest to learn are allowed to be there, present, to ask their questions. All right then, friend, replied the Venerable Samiddhi as he went and approached the Blessed One. And after paying his respects, he sat down to one side and reported to the great teacher on his dialogue with that Deva and all that he had witnessed earlier that day. Then the Venerable Samiddhi added, now, Bhante, if that Deva was serious about wanting to come along with me, as I asked her questions, then she must be close by. As he was just done speaking these words, that Deva said to the Venerable Samiddhi, I am here, Bhikkhu. Ask the questions, Bhikkhu, ask. Then the Buddha addressed the Deva directly in verse. Beings who are able to perceive what can be expressed become fixated on and stuck in whatever is expressed. By not understanding what is expressed, they all fall prey to death. The term here for beings who are able to pick up, become percipient to what is being expressed is Nikāya sanyino satta. So they look at the person and they see that as an absolute 100% concrete reality, what is being expressed. So in other words, we are personalizing them. I can't believe you just said that attitude. Like, he's like this, she's like that. So we have a tendency of crystallizing. We have a tendency of making a thing out of it, the thing that is being expressed, Nikāya in Pali. Then he continues, but when one fully understands what is expressed, they no longer isolate nor distinguish an expressor. The source, you. What this is also saying is asmimana. You exist because I exist. I am. That conceit. So he's saying if one fully understands, then there isn't such a thing. For there is nothing left for him to become fixated on or stuck on. So you become unidentifiable, unpinnable, if you will. You cannot be pinned down. I don't even know if that word exists in English, unpinnable. So when human beings think, when we think about, let's say, or recognize or identify as, oh, this is a Deva, or this is a Mara, this is a human, this is a householder, this is a general, this is a person, we're assuming these verbal expressions to be referring to things that actually exist out there in this time period, fixed in time, real in essence. Somebody the other day was asking me some questions about themselves and they were very upset. And I said, if I were to take you back in time and you look at yourself when you were 10 years old, would you identify that person? They really had to struggle with this. What I was trying to, and I asked a series of similar questions in the same vein, to indicate to them that, please tell me, where is this you that you're talking about? That I'm unfixable. I am this, Bhante. Which one is the I am? Could you tell me? The one when you were 10 years old? At that time? Because in 10 years old, that means 10 years, a year old, which we call 10 years old, is 365 and a half days. In one day, there's 24 hours, multiplied by 60 minutes. Which minute? In fact, you're not even the same in that single minute, in that single second or millisecond. So you see, it's like, whoa, it's almost pulling us into like a vortex or a type of like a black hole. The mind doesn't like that. The mind is lazy. It loves something that it can hold on to, like When we were kids, we would play with clay. We are still doing that. Oh, he's my boss. Yes, over there. He makes that much money. He bosses me around. He owns the company. Da 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 da. So I'm putting them into a nice little mold that I can justify my feelings through, by the way, my life through. So, in essence, the thing that is being expressed from the verse is expressing or talking about, in essence, is the five aggregates. The five aggregates of grasping, or the grabbing aggregates, what we like to hold on to: form, feelings, perceptions, memories, mental concoctions and things, sankharas, the habitual tendencies, and the sense awarenesses, the consciousnesses, things that you saw, for example. That's the eye consciousness. That's the fifth of the five aggregates. It's just a sound. Take it easy. It's just a touch. Oh, I don't like that thing when it touches my skin. Okay, that was 5 hours ago. Get over it. Relax. It was just a tactile perception or touch consciousness. But we have this enormous, we've given this enormous credibility to these things called language and perception. So language is what animates us in the world of putujjanas. The dense people that we are, dense, nothing gets through. This mutual relationship between language and perception is what our society functions on these days. Well, not just these days, but. So we need to have wisdom specifically to dismantle this mechanism of delusion and understand that language, after all, is just something that is a tool that we are using to understand. It's not 100% representation of reality. It's just a language. And same thing with perception. I had a teacher once who used to say, don't believe everything you think. And that really put me on the, like in my head, on the spot. I was like, whoa, this is interesting. It's simple, but it's heavy enough for me to probe some more and understand my relationship to reality. Because my reality was being constructed moment to moment by my perception of that reality. Now, you want to go ahead and or ask for a real life example of this? Look at any relationship you have had, especially close relationships, especially partnerships, let's say, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, friends even. Especially the ones, oh, I don't know what happened to her. We were married for 40 years and all of a sudden I wake up one day and I was like, she's not the one that I was like, who is this person? Or like, oh, 5 years later, it's like he says things that I don't understand. Like, this is not the man that I married. I was like, hold on. I think you're right. This is not the man you married. You know who you married? The one you were projecting, the one you were thinking, you were perceiving that this must be the man. This must be the woman. This must be the good friend that I am spending my time. Must be? What is that? Must be is the offspring of language and perception in your head. Lord Buddha had an even easier term for it, called it avidya, ignorance, or moha, delusion. Or the way I like to call it recently in my translations, stupidity. Because it takes effort to maintain that ignorance, which involves some level of you're involved in it, so it's some level of intelligence that needs to be there to maintain it, hence the stupidity. So there is a lot of wrong view there. And if you remember from past talks, excuse me, vipallasa. I mentioned about the vipallasas where these are flawed way of understanding reality. They're contaminants, corruptions of the mind, where we take reality and we impose our ideas of what that reality should be. So Lord Buddha broke it down to basically, this is the opposite of right view, by the way. So easy way of understanding it is looking at something that is impermanent and somehow expecting it to become permanent. And when, you know, the thing hits the fan, as they say, we see reality for what it is and we say, oh, I'm hurt now. Yeah, but look at why. You were looking at something that was impermanent from the start, was temporary, and you were somehow praying that becomes permanent. Hence the stupidity, hence the avidya or the moha. So this is one vipallasa. The second one is when you look at painful things and expecting there to be pleasure. The outcome is pain. When you're, by the way, looking at something that is impermanent and wanting to see there to be permanency, what in essence that's saying is the same thing as looking at something painful, because anything that is temporary is also deeply connected to what is painful. Youth, I was saying about Venerable Samiddhi's youth. She's saying, oh, your youth is passing by, grasp, hold on to it, enjoy it. There was one teacher years ago, I used to read his books, and he would say, suck the juice out of every moment. Ooh. Yeah, but isn't that hedonism also? Take charge of this moment and use the body. He was talking about mostly the carnal things and things like that. Also, looking for the pure and beautiful and attractive in what is impure, ugly, and in fact repulsive. Recently, I gave the example, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, of this couple. One of them was the mate or the concubine or the wife of the king, and she was cheating on him with her boyfriend or whatever, and they're caught, and then they love each other. Oh, yes, you're going to kill us, but we're going to go into heaven. You kill us, and we're going to be happily living together ever after. So he's about to kill them, and the advisor comes in and says, Lord, let's come up with a better plan. So it's like, what? He's like, don't kill them. I have an idea. Chain them together, but completely naked. Chain them together, facing each other, naked. But they don't have the opportunity to go to the bathroom. They don't have the opportunity to go. We will feed them. We'll feed them good. We'll have them drink water, this, that, whatever, wine, whatever they want. But no bathroom breaks and no showering. And you know how that went. The few days they're holding, and then all of a sudden, all the sounds come out, the gases are being released, the bathroom, number one, number two follows, and the stench. After a few weeks of this, they're hating each other. They can't pull themselves apart fast enough. And the king comes with his advisors and they're laughing. They cut the chains and they run in the opposite direction. These are the same people who were about to die for your love. Looking for something that is ugly to begin with. I mean, your own body. Try not to shower for a few days, see what happens. Eventually. So, and the aging factor. Oh, She has such a beautiful figure. Yeah? Okay, let's penetrate the skin a little bit deeper. Let's remove the skin. Okay, let's look inside. Can we look at the vascular system? When you remove the skin, it's, you know, the fleshy part, the muscles and all that. It's very, like when you touch it, it's kind of sticky. Some people might even get uncomfortable with even these images. You go to the bone. We just hold your hand out. Look at your hand. Instead of seeing the skin or whatever, the nails, try to penetrate deeper and just look at the, you know, metatarsals, the phalanges, the bones. You know, there's a tip over here, you know, at the end. It's not a fingerprint. It's not a skin. Go deeper. There's a bone there and there's a joint. It's not in movies only. You're carrying with you this bag of bones wherever you go. So what beauty are we talking about? So to have wisdom means not to constantly be living with this image in your mind and become like, you know, terrified of it or whatever, have a negative relationship. No, that's not what Lord Buddha is teaching us. But to not look for the beautiful or closing both eyes to the facts. That's vipallasa. And then there's the fourth one where we look for or at something that doesn't have substantiality and calling it myself, you. That is Sakaya Ditti. That this person exists. This is you, this is me. Atta, the term is. So anatta is that self, it's wrongly translated into English, non-self. The Lord Buddha never said self doesn't, you know, like your personality that doesn't exist. No, the taking for granted, there's this thing, this substantial being that is unchangeable. It goes from life to life. That is vipallasa, that is wrong. That's why it's all a matter of conditions, piling on top of each other, having to do with our choices and free will, the willingness, the volition, which turns into habit, habitual tendencies where sankharas come in. So the person who is not established in any of these things is a person who breaks free from what is expressed. That's the way that, one way that we can understand the verses of Lord Buddha's. So we don't treat them as real, capital, real. Especially the concepts that we have pertaining to what is it that we are being exposed to. Then, which by the way, this goes against everything that you see in the media, everything you see and you hear in the news, everything they terrify you about, or try to have you become mesmerized by, the two extremes. So when you break free from this mindset, you break free from the influence that this world is trying to have on you and on your heart, the way you see the world. You break free from avidya, ignorance. Then the Blessed One asked, Spirit, if you understood what was said, go ahead and speak. And the Deva replied, Bhante, I don't understand it in full, the detailed meaning of the Blessed One's brief statement. Please, it would be wonderful if you could explain it further by teaching me the detailed meaning of this so I could understand it better. So now Lord Buddha explains it in a different way. Again, you see why this sutta is placed in the bigger connected discourses grouping called pertaining to the verses, because these types of suttas have verses in them where the teaching is being expressed. By continuing to think in terms of I am equal to, I am better, or I am special or worse than, soon you will find yourself quarreling with others, getting into arguments. But remaining unshakable in the face of these three discriminations, one does not fall into the trap of I am equal to, I am better or special or worse than. This is at the crux of the problem of our existence, meaning the conceit I am. Asmimana, it's called in Pali. And these three aspects of conceit. So usually when we think of conceit in our popular culture, we think, oh, somebody who thinks they are better than others. No, there's two other aspects in Buddhism. The one is when you look at yourself lower than others, inferior to. Sometimes in modern parlance, we might say inferiority complex. But then there's the third one. Oh, we're on the same level. Yes, yes, I think. Yes. So you're playing this in your head a lot. Or I should be better. I should be equal to. See that person over there, so I have to match them. All these things are called tayovidha, which are the three types of discriminations. And this is basically where we essentially find the role of papanchas. So these different types of perceptions are coming out and turning into these mental proliferations. This non-stop proliferation, like viruses or bacteria that can multiply themselves. And they just grow, they just continue, mental proliferations. So these three things come out and they multiply. And as they do so, they wreak havoc in our lives. Basically, our lives are based on papanchas. So long as we're living unawakened, in an unawakened fashion, and being led by these three types of discriminations. Now, remember here, if and when you apply wise, radical attention, yoniso manasikara, however, the whole thing turns around, meaning you turn the tables on these things, on these tendencies, no matter how long you've been a slave to them. That's how wonderful it is. It's like that drop of detergent I keep mentioning. If you have dirty dishes and oily and it's in the sink, right? And it's heavy duty, greasy substance in there, and you drop a little bit of bleach into that plate, what happens? All that greasy substances, the liquid gets pushed aside. Wise, radical attention is what you need to bring everything into focus. You're placing the attention on the origin point, whatever is happening as it's happening, instead of being lost in your thoughts, in the Niagara, in the current powerful momentum of your old habitual tendencies of thinking. And with it, what happens is quite incredible. As Bhante Nyanananda says, it's when you bring in wise, radical attention, yoniso manasikara, placing the attention on the point of origin, where it's really happening, the first thing that you let go of are the papanchas. The mental proliferation stop because of your wise, radical attention. It's called radical because you're going at the root. Papanchas stop because you let go of them. But it's not only that. Because of the stopping of papanchas, what happens is you're thinking, constantly being lost in thinking the process, not what the process is producing. That's the mental proliferations, papanchas. But the thinking itself, the vitakka, also gets cut off. And when that is getting cut off, what happens is your perception is given up. Your reliance on perceiving and putting so much credence and attention on perception, memories, that also is given up. And when you give up the perception, guess what? You free yourself from this incredible shackle that's called Vedana, or feeling, or emotions. the grip that they have on you comes apart. The link is cut. Or at least it becomes looser, even if it doesn't get cut. And then you finally, as a result, go back to the most basic thing that was happening in the first place, which means you come back to where contact happened. That's it. The eye was seeing something. That's it. Seeing. You didn't add another fairy tale on top. You didn't add flesh. Yeah, he was singing that song or that noise. Okay. It was a noise. It was a noise. It was a nasty touch on the skin. Fine. Don't dwell on it. Have it just remain as contact. There's this fixation that is coming apart. Now, this is not a one-time thing. It's not like you get the right password and boom, you're in and you're good and you become, no. This is a continuously applied method, a formulaic structure that needs to be applied. And as you apply this again and again, they lose, these tendencies of ignorance lose their grip on you. And then all of a sudden you start not be affected. And people say, what has happened to you? What do you mean? Well, you don't get rattled up as much as you used to. What's and you start wondering, yeah, that's true, actually. What's happening is this, in behind the scenes, these are the things that are happening. Papanchas are not having control over you. Feelings are losing their grip on you, their hold. No, I don't like to experience this type of feeling. Okay. You realize that it is still unpleasant, but you don't make a big deal about it or of it. And you're going back naturally to the part where we call just the mere facts of the matter, phassa, or the contact. Again, the Blessed One asked, Spirit, if you understood what was said, go ahead and speak. And again, the Deva replied, Bhante, I don't understand it in full, the detailed meaning of the Blessed One's brief statement. Please, it would be wonderful if you could explain it further by teaching me the detailed meaning of this so I could understand it better. So Lord Buddha is kind of like, he started where, in a way where he just went straight at it. So to see if the Deva could pick it up. So now he's making it more digestible for the Deva to be able to understand. So now he's brought it really down to his level, the teaching. Surmising and conclusions are given up, and conceit is defeated. Craving for name and form is, here and now, completely cut off. With all knots that bind finally severed, one remains empty of any expectations, free from all troubles. And even though devas and humans come looking for him, whether in this world or the one beyond, they can never find them, not in the heavens, nor in any other realm. In other words, we're seeing here Lord Buddha refer to the Arahant, who is beyond the confines of language and perception. So you're no longer held captive by your identifications and your own conclusions. And that's another thing over the years that I noticed as a teacher at high school and, university, and then also as a therapist and also as a bhikkhu, trying to help people. People have a difficulty, I notice, letting go of our conclusions about things. Why is that? That's something we need to ask ourselves. We talk about non-attachment, what is that? Can you detach yourself from your conclusions? At the very least, you need to put a question mark on it before you detach yourself from them. Ask, is this 100% valid? today. Because whoever made the conclusion might have been you 20 years ago, version 2.0 of you. Well, you're now in a different version. Does the conclusion still hold? Just question. Because ultimately the Arahant is not, when they look at a person, they're not seeing a person. They're seeing a conditionality taking place in front of them. Of course, if the person is not an Arahant, they're seeing delusion, they're seeing tendencies, but they're not seeing someone who is expressing this, who is stuck in time, fixed, concrete, unchangeable. No, they see that this too will change tomorrow or today, as I'm speaking. Otherwise, Lord Buddha would never been able to teach people and have influenced so many people to change their hardline way of thinking. Some people came in trying to insult him, swear at him. Many people came in to want to debate with him. They had a certain reputation, which Lord Buddha knew about, but he never put those things in front of them. He saw what was happening as what was happening, and that's it. So this is part of full understanding. And it's called Akheyancha Parinyaya, which is a special quality. There is an understanding of things, and this type of understanding happens to the Arahant and also to the Buddha. That's a very high level of understanding. It's fully direct knowledge, basically, and there's the ability to know whatever it needs to be known, and with the application of scrutiny, mind you, there needs to be the investigation, which is another level of a full understanding. And then it comes to completion when there is the abandoning and the giving up entirely. It's called pahana. And when you're giving up, just like I was mentioning earlier, to try to encourage ourselves to give up, abandon our conclusions about things. This is why it's so essential for people to, sooner than later, give up their conclusions. Because that's the thing which holds us captive. Let's say a racist person has a tough time letting go of the possibility that there could be someone beautiful staring at them, but who happens to have the type of skin or ethnic background that they've always had a dislike for. So now they're starting to fight in themselves, in their heart, in their mind, because facts are, this person is treating them like beautifully. They would be able to treat someone like that. Yeah, but somebody told them something or make conclusions about this type of a person or this type of a religion or whatever. No. Even if that was a conclusion that they themselves made, one has to be able to walk away from that entirely. Pahana, giving up entirely. And that's why Lord Buddha gave that example, which I mentioned also in the book, and it's obviously from the suttas, in the book of the fours, of the types of, I think it's the book of the fours. In regards to forgiveness, I mentioned this in the book also, where the Arahant follows in the same path, in the same way, by not leaving any footprints, just like the birds flying in the sky. Try to find the footprints or the wing prints of the bird in the sky. They don't hold grudges. They don't have such conclusions like Putujanas do when they carve on the rock. Oh, you did this to me. I can never forget this. Or the person who's writing it on the sand. Okay, we're better than the rock. That might take another billion years for it to be wiped off, but sand at least has a chance that a wave might come in and whoosh, or even riding on the water. There's still ripples. But the Arahant doesn't have any of those. Again, the Blessed One asked, Spirit, if you understood what was said, go ahead and speak. And the Deva said, Bhante, I now understand the detailed meaning of the Blessed One's brief statement to be the following. In all the realms, no evil actions should be committed by anyone, whether through speech, thought, or the body. And by having given up sensual pleasures, one should remain mindful throughout, fully aware and understanding of whatever it is that is happening. Thus, one should leave behind all that wastes time and causes suffering. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. A beautiful sutta. It's I hope in our exploration here today you saw aspects of yourself, and that's what I found to be really helpful in my own progress. And when I read suttas, I'm always trying to find something there, and there's always something that is so pertinent, so relevant to oneself and your unique situations. So I hope it does that. It does make you think, stop and think in the middle of the week, let's say, or the weekend. And suffering becomes less for you because of it. And there's more clarity. So we need to give up that idea that clarity is going to come in one bang, one day when you become an arahant. Ooh, sparks, fireworks. No, 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 no. Every moment that you're spending to really understand, take a moment, just pause. That is leading you to it. So it's progressive. That's why it's called patipada. It's not like, oh, hallelujah, like all of a sudden some things fall over your head. No. And when you read in suttas, and it does happen, let's say somebody suddenly becomes an arahant. Yeah, but it wasn't sudden. When you're boiling water, it will boil at 100 degrees Celsius. Which means 99 degrees had to be passed through in order for you to reach 100. People don't understand that. They're just waiting for that boiling by completely ignoring all the other steps that must be there first. So every moment of you taking a moment and just saying, am I wisely reflecting, radically reflecting here or not? And if you're not, wisely, radically begin reflecting by going back to the source, which is the contact being made through the six senses. Leave your interpretations or skills in it aside for a moment. Go back to the basic fact. So I'll stop here and hopefully if there are any questions, try to answer. All right, there seems to be none. All right, in that case, let us transfer some merits and one of the students here has said goodbye to his ailing mother recently, and when we are transferring the merits, I would like us to also have her in mind, and may she land softly, and may she land where there is less pain, less suffering, and more peace, tranquility, and especially the opportunity to learn, to come close to, and to practice the Dhamma. At the very least, may she be reborn as a human being, and a human being who is in the embrace of the Dhamma. And by extension, all your loved ones who have passed, all those you have known who have passed, as well as those who are present in this physical body, may they come also in contact with the Dhamma. May they have the opportunity that you have to listen and to willingly practice the training, patipada, of this Dhamma, sasana of Lord Buddha. So, Akasatha chibu mata Deva nagamahidika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakhantu loka sasanam. Akasatha chibu mata Deva nagamahidika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakhantu desanam. Akasatha chibu mata Deva nagamahidika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakhantu mam paranti. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May you all be well. May the Triple Gems blessings be upon you. And may you meet with success always in your practice, especially and in all aspects of your life, as you choose the kusala over the akusala, and take charge of your life and your attention, basing it radically on what matters the most, which is contact. In that way, I assure you, you won't be wasting any time. And no devata will ever be able to convince you otherwise. Until next time, be well. Sukhi hotu.